Good day. This is Donna again with Aviana Global Technologies. Welcome to our webinar today on deploying a state-of-the-art AI/ML platform with Cloudera on Red Hat OpenShift. This webinar is co-hosted with Red Hat. Before we start, just some housekeeping items. This presentation will be recorded. We will be muting everyone to ensure a smooth presentation by our speaker. Also, at the end of the session, we will be having a 5 to 10 minutes Q&A session. However, if you have any questions, please submit it through chat. We will respond to you at the end of the session. If we run out of time, we will connect with you after the webinar. Also, after the webinar, you will be receiving a follow-up survey to get, we would like to get your feedback regarding the session. And we will also be sharing the presentation deck with you. A brief background on Aviana Global Technologies, just in case you do not know us. We are a Southern California-based company specializing in advanced analytics. We have been around for 25 years. We have deep expertise in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and cloud-based deployments. Over the years, we have built long-term relationships with our clients. Here are some of them. And now, please join me in welcoming John Senegal, our speaker of the day. John is Red Hat's principal solution architect for IoT, Edge, and AI/ML. As part of Red Hat's global partners, he has been building technology and solution partnerships with Red Hat strategic partners. John, good morning. Glad to have you here.
Hello, thank you. Glad to be here.
So you can take it away.
I will do that. All right. Hello, everyone. As Donna said, my name is John Senegal. I'm with Red Hat. I am a solution architect responsible for partnerships with AI/ML partners and Edge and IoT partners as well. I have a long history, worked with IBM for a very long time before I came to Red Hat. Came to Red Hat about 3 years ago, about 3 months before the acquisition. And so some might say IBM paid $34 billion to get me back. And I won't debate that. But anyway, so let's get started on what we're going to talk about today. I'll take myself off screen so we can sort of focus on our subject. What we want to talk about today is CDP Private Cloud running on Red Hat OpenShift. And for an agenda, the way I'd like to lay it out is I want to sort of lay out the landscape of data and AI and ML, just so we kind of level set and everybody understands what the landscape looks like. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about Cloudera and CDP. I'm by no means an expert on Cloudera, but I partner with them. We have a really strong relationship, so I know a little something about Cloudera. And if during the course of this presentation, if you want to know more and you want to get to the next level of conversation about Cloudera, you certainly can ask questions and I'll answer the ones I can, but make sure that you get what you need. But the thing I really want to focus on, and we'll get to that later on, is the CDP Private Cloud on Red Hat OpenShift. And that's the meat of what we'll be talking about today. So let's talk a little bit about the landscape of data and AI and ML and why we need that. So I think by now everybody sort of understands that data is valuable. Data is probably one of the most valuable assets in any organization. And some even believe that data is the new oil, right? It is as valuable as oil is in the oil industry. But just like oil, you have to be able to find the data. You have to be able to extract the value from the data. So just like oil, you still have to have those same capabilities. And so when we look at this study from HRB from 2019, one of the things is discovered here, as you can see in the numbers, that data is everywhere, right? Data is on premises, is in private cloud, hybrid cloud. It's all over the place. And so the question is, how do you find the data you need to be able to extract the insights that you're really trying to get to? And so the advice from Gartner here is that everybody deploying these kinds of AI, machine learning kinds of solutions will have to figure out a multi-cloud, hybrid cloud strategy of how do you get to the data to avoid the performance issues, the unplanned cost overruns, et cetera. So we're going to talk about how we address some of that. But once you can get to the data, then what do you do with it, right? What do you do with the data? Well, this is where AI and ML comes in. This is where machine learning and artificial intelligence comes in figuring out how to extract the value from that data. And what we found in all of the customers and all of the people we deal with is that the value that you get back from that is improved customer experience, digital and otherwise, with the products and services. We've seen our customers gain competitive advantages because they had insights into their own data, market data, consumer data, that gave them leverage over their competitors. Increase revenue because now you can roll out new systems faster and get new revenue streams. And also because of the things you get out of machine learning, you can automate business processing, so you get some cost savings for that. So we see that with AI and ML, extracting that insights of the data brings a lot of value to the organizations we've been involved with. But then it leads to the next set of challenges, right? The next set of challenges is how do I get going with AI and ML projects? Not everybody understands what that means. And so in order to get to this data, you have to have talent, right? You're going to need data engineers. You're going to need data scientists. Finding those is not easy. Then once you find them and you start building out models and deploying platforms, how do you get access to all of the infrastructure and resources and scaling that you need in order to build out these models? And then once you have the models in place, how do you operationalize them? How do you get them into production? How do you get them into the place that they become what you need them to be? So there's all these challenges that organizations are left with to try to figure out. The data's everywhere. How do I get the talent and the infrastructure and the environment to build out these models? How do I get them operationalized? And then once they become, in order to get your models operationalized, you have to do some things, right? You set goals and you need business leadership that sort of understands what the goals of the organization are. You need to be able to gather and prepare that data. This is where data engineers come in. Then you have to have data scientists that are going to develop this model. And then you have to integrate the model into your current systems or build new systems around those models so that those insights can be elevated to the place that people can actually use that. You have application developers for that. You got to have IT people to get these models and infrastructure and systems all in place to be able to support that. So bringing about AI ML systems is not a trivial task or activity. So there's data extraction, building models, and getting those models operationalized is definitely a challenge. But the reward in doing that across all of these different industries is pretty obvious. So when we talk about financial services, they've been able to improve risk analysis and they've been able to reduce fraud. In the healthcare industry, they've improved all kinds of outcomes from deploying these kinds of solutions. So now that we've sort of just talked about the landscape and why extracting this data is important and machine learning and AI is important, let's talk about the solution that we've come up with. So first, I'm going to start by just telling you a little bit about Cloudera. Cloudera is basically, Cloudera has always been a Hadoop-based company about extracting data from different sources. They joined forces with Hortonworks about a year or so ago, and they formed uh, the the Cloudera company now together with Hortonworks. And their focus is really about, first of all, accessing the data. So we talked about the challenges of doing that. So they believe that you can access your data no matter where it is, pull it into a platform and an environment, and now be able to draw insights from that data. But it doesn't stop there with just getting access to the data, but it also provides the ability to manage and secure that data throughout the data lifecycle. And the way they do that is by creating this platform that they call Cloudera Data Platform, short CDP in short. And essentially, what this platform does is it can run, first of all, on edge platforms, private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud environment. But what it really does is the SDX part of the platform is called the shared data experience. The the SDX allows you to catalog all of the data across all the platforms and environment your data is on, allow you to build up schemas related to that data, allow you to replicate data across those platforms. But it also allows you the control plane aspects where you can secure and govern that data. So it's a complete data management platform. And on top of that, they provide you with a whole suite of tools that allows you to access, manipulate, and draw insights from that data. So whether the data is a batch form or streaming, if you want to do data engineering around manipulation of the data, if you want to just build a data warehouse around that data, you can do that. If you want to do machine learning, you can do that. And all of that is done from a common pane glass in the management console that gives you a view of your data across your entire environment and infrastructure. And so this is the CDP platform. So let's talk about a typical use case that the CDP platform supports today, right? So this particular use case is around predictive maintenance in a manufacturing plant. So as you can see, we have a variety of data sources. We have real-time data sources that may be coming off of the manufacturing line. We have the products data source that tells us about our products. We have supply chain information. We have consumer data. And it's a variety of different data from different data sources. And so what this CDP platform allows you to do is collect that data, right? So now we have access to all of the data from all of these different data sources. It allows you to enrich the data. So now you want to do some data engineering around the data. Maybe you want to deduplicate the data. Maybe you want to join some data across these different data sources. It allows you to then generate reports, just simple reports. If you want simple reports on what's happening in the supply chain, what's happening on the production line, you can produce those reports from a data warehouse. If you just want an operational database that helps you figure out how to order certain things at certain times, you can do that. But if you really want to get sophisticated and do predictive maintenance kinds of things, you can then apply machine learning models to those same data sources. And then all of those results can then be fed into all of the back-end enterprise use cases like supply chain optimization or process monitoring dashboard, whatever use case you might need. But this is a typical example of a problem that the CDP platform solves today. So that was CDP. So CDP is the base platform that Cloudera has today that runs on different clouds as is. But what I really wanted to emphasize and really talk about today is the CDP Private Cloud. And there's some extra value propositions that's been added to this private cloud model, and we'll talk about that. So we're going to take a step back and talk about organizations and companies that we're talking about and we're doing research on. What we understand is that the whole world is sort of shifting toward modernization and digital transformation. That's sort of happening on its own. Everybody is realizing that you have to modernize. You're starting to shift away from the traditional, maybe the J2EE applications, and moving into different models now and different programming languages and et cetera, and moving to a more cloud native model that takes advantage of some of the cloud-based technologies. And so as people are modernizing, that means containerizing, becoming more cloud native. And when you start containerizing your other workloads, it's only natural that 94% of organizations say, well, as I modernize my other applications, I'm also going to want to run my AI workloads in containers as well. And so it's only natural that the move to cloud native deployments is also referring to moving AI workloads to cloud native deployments. And as you can see on the right, there's tons of benefits and reasons for doing that. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. In addition to that, um, companies are also talking about a hybrid strategy, because what we find in a lot of organizations is that different business units, different groups within organizations want to run workloads in different places. Some people they have requirements that they want to run in AWS. Some people want to run in Azure. Some people want to run in the IBM Cloud or Google. Some people want to run on-prem. And so what's happening and what we're noticing is this hybrid cloud trend, that people want the flexibility and the ability to run hybrid. So maybe I have data here and there, and I want access to that data, or I want to run a workload where I think is the most appropriate for that workload. And so, in addition to containerizing and becoming more cloud native, organizations are looking to also be hybrid. One more stat sheet I'd like to talk about is there are certain workloads that can't run in the public cloud because of compliance reasons, because of security reasons, and sometimes just because of difficulty running in the cloud with certain kinds of workloads, because of data, because of other issues. So there is some movement where there are particular workloads, especially in financial services and those kinds of industries, where there's sort of this move to say we want to run some of our stuff in a private cloud. And so when you start thinking about the compliance issues, the security issues with data, there is a trend for some of those workloads to move back to private cloud. So I think there will always be a notion of some things is appropriate and perfectly fine to run in a public cloud, but there are other things that will always be run on premises. And of course, there'll be things that run across both. But those are the trends that we are noticing. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what that means to be hybrid cloud and to be cloud native. And so just to level set a little bit about why containers and why Kubernetes. And I'm pretty sure most people understand what Kubernetes is, but for those of you who don't, let me try to explain it a little bit. Kubernetes is essentially, you can think of it as an operating system for the cloud. It is the abstraction layer between your workload application and the infrastructure. So the same thing that an operating system does on your computer or your server, it's that layer that your applications speak to and depend on that shields you from the underlying hardware so you don't have to speak to firmware. So that operating system protects you from that. Well, Kubernetes platform essentially is an operating system in the cloud. It is the abstraction between your workload and the infrastructure, whatever that infrastructure is, whether it's a hardware system, whether it's a virtual machine, whether it's the cloud provider platform, or whether it's a private cloud platform. It protects you from that. Our 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 Kubernetes distribution for Red Hat is called OpenShift. So OpenShift is a Kubernetes distribution, specifically 100% Kubernetes, but designed to be hybrid cloud, so that it doesn't just run in Azure, it doesn't just run in AWS or Google, but it also runs on-prem. It runs on bare metal. It runs on VMs. So it provides you the ability to have this cloud native platform that can run on any infrastructure of your choosing. The value of such a platform is, first of all, agility. This gives you ability to automate the compute resources. What does that mean? It means that as you want to spin up new workloads, you can assign workloads to run on certain hardware. For example, we talk a lot about, in the AI ML space, we talk about GPUs, the graphic processing units. And so if you need specific kinds of resources, you need a certain amount of CPU or GPU, you have the ability to assign certain workloads to certain platforms to make sure that that's available for you to run that particular workload. So having the flexibility to spin up new environments without having to depend on IT to give you a new system or to give you new resources is of great value to people building AI ML applications. Consistency and portability. So the ability to have the same kind of cloud native experience no matter where I want to run my workload. So when we talk about OpenShift, so if you want to run a Kubernetes or an AI ML workload, you can run that same workload or a different workload on any platform that you need to. So you get a consistent platform, a consistent OS experience, cloud native OS experience, wherever you want to run it. So, back in the old days, you might say, well, in my data center, I have some Windows machines, I have some Linux machines. Why do I want that? Why don't I want to standardize on one? Why don't I just want to have all Windows? Or why not just have all Linux? Right? It's the same notion, right? I want to have the same platform no matter where I want to run this workload. Flexibility, right? So this gives you the ability to spin up new environments, to add additional workloads. It gives one team the ability to run their set of AI ML tools and workloads. Another team on the same platform can run a totally different set of AI ML workloads. They have the flexibility to run what they want, but all on the same platform. But one of the most valuable aspects of a Kubernetes OpenShift platform is auto scaling. And what that means is that these systems are designed to scale up and scale down. That is the sort of the heart and soul of having a cloud native platform, that as the requirements or the demands on the system increase around Christmas time or around Mother's Day or around a shopping season, the system can automatically scale up to meet the demand. And then when the demand goes away, it can automatically scale down. So that auto scaling and high availability is a core attribute of having a cloud native OpenShift platform. So as we talk about that, one of the things we want to talk about is when we see this, talk about it here. So as I mentioned before, this platform that we're talking about, this open hybrid cloud platform, is, in our case, is Red Hat OpenShift, can run across all of these different environments: physical, virtual, public, private, even out on the edge. It also gives you access to the compute acceleration, like I mentioned, GPUs. So this platform here now becomes the consistent platform to run all of the other things that are needed to support the DevOps, the ML ops model of building, gathering your data, building your models, getting your models into production. You have this common platform that can support all aspects of delivering models and operationalizing models. So now let's get into CDP Private Cloud. So we talked about before was CDP itself. So CDP, you can sort of look at it at the bottom where you see what we call the base, right? You see the Cloudera shared data experience down there and the data hub. This is the core of the CDP platform that basically gives you access to all your data sources. It runs on bare metal and it runs on a Linux platform on bare metal. This is the connective tissue of getting access to all of the data that you have across all these different platforms. So this is the connective tissue that brings in the data. But the difference between CDP and CDP Private Cloud is this middle component. This middle component is what we call the container cloud. And this is what provides the fast provisioning, the scalability. It's simple, it's easy, and it's flexible. And this is what gives private cloud its flexibility. And on top of it, we talked about all the different types of workloads, the data engineering, the data warehouse, the machine learning. All of those capabilities now have been containerized, and they all run on top of Red Hat OpenShift in the private cloud. So this gives customers a private cloud experience in their own data center. So the base is what gives you access to all the data that you have in your environment, and the top part of the screen, the CDP private cloud running on OpenShift, is what then allows you to run these machine learning models and workloads with the flexibility and scalability of the Kubernetes platform. So let's talk about the value prop. The value that the CDP private cloud brings, right? So one of the things is it's a lot easier to operate because it's a cloud native platform. All of these things are containerized. So in terms of time to value, being able to onboard new projects, now customers through our own experience are able to start up new projects in minutes, right? It's literally a click of a button. I want to start a new project that I can start working on. I have all the tools available to me to start collecting data and building models around that, where you would normally take weeks because you have to provision all the resources, you have to get the machines in place, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have that same problem now, so it's easier to operate. In terms of isolation of tenants, so now it used to take some effort prior to CDP Private Cloud to maintain security between different tenants that are sharing the platform. But now, because of the base capabilities in Kubernetes, you can spin up projects and tenants are completely isolated from each other. So problems like noisy neighbors, where one neighbor is taking up resources of another neighbor, is completely eliminated because of the way we're able to isolate and segment tenants running on a platform like this. And then it requires less data center infrastructure resources because you use what you need, right? When you need it. So whatever resources you need are available as you need them. And when you don't need them anymore, they go back into the resource pool and are available for other people to take advantage of. So it lowers the cost of data center activities. So in setting out creating this CDP private cloud, these are some of the use cases that Cloudera and Red Hat help to solve, right? We talked about the noisy neighbor problem, right? Because you have dedicated compute resources that are limited to that tenant, right? So if you look at the last bullet, we talk about quota management, right? So you could set limits. You could set min and max limits per tenant. So therefore, one tenant cannot overrun or suck up all of the resources that are available in the system. You have a shared data lake. So when it comes to data management across the environment, you have access to any data that you are allowed to through security measures and management. But any data you're allowed to see or have available to your workload is available to you in your environment. So whatever data is required for you to solve your problem, if you have the access, the authorization to get to that data, then that data is available to you in that one platform. You don't have to go and connect to something else in order to get the data you need. Push button provisioning. As I was mentioning before, if you have an idea to start a new project or to innovate or to test out an idea, you can automatically, given the right authorization, push a button and spin up a new environment and have access to all of the tooling, everything that you would normally have. But you can spin up an environment in seconds and play around with your idea and test it out. So the ability to innovate is limitless in this kind of platform. We also talked about auto scaling, right? So auto scaling as needed, you have available to you what you need when you need it. And then you have a shared Kubernetes platform. It's the same platform. And so you can run certain things in the morning, you can run different things in the afternoon, but it's all on a consistent common platform. So let's talk about what the offerings look like for the CDP Private Cloud. So at the core of it, as I mentioned before, is the base. That's the base edition. That's CDP. That's sort of what we talked about at the very beginning. That's the core. That's the ability to access all the data sources. It runs on bare metal, but it's the heart of it because this is where the governance and security comes from. This is where you create the schemas for all of the data that gives you access to all of the data that you're going to draw all of these insights from. On top of that, though, becomes where Red Hat OpenShift comes in and the Plus Edition. The Plus Edition, it gives you the common control plane. It gives you all of the capability to do the replication manager, the machine learning workload, the data warehousing experience. And then there's the Max Edition that has all of the experience plus additional features that they're still working out all the details of. But these are the offerings that are part of the private cloud. So we see this as a one-stop enterprise solution for all of the AI ML needs. It takes care of the data problem, right? How do I get to my data wherever that data is? And it provides you all of the capabilities that a cloud native AI ML platform would provide you: the flexibility, the agility, the scalability, and the consistency across all of that. And it's a hybrid platform. So meaning you can run workloads where you want to run them, when you want to run them. So if you want to run workloads on-prem, it's perfectly okay. You can deploy workloads to run on an on-prem cluster. If you want to run some in the cloud, you can deploy things to run in the cloud. It gives you a hybrid cloud experience running your AI ML workloads. So as I said before, it allows you, it empowers every employee to get to the value that they need to get to from a single place and a single source. You don't have to go multiple places to get what you need out of this system. It's an open source system. And so what does that mean? That means that it has the ability to integrate with other open source tools. It has open source APIs. And so it has the flexibility for integrating with other systems. It provides you unlimited scalability and flexibility, as I mentioned before, and a consistent experience. And so we believe that this is a solid platform, a great platform that allows people to build the kind of AI ML systems they want in order to solve these kinds of problems. And let me give you one particular use case from a large automotive manufacturing company that I'm not allowed to reveal. But they had some stability issues with their supply chain, but they also had scalability issues. So as they wanted to add new workloads, they couldn't scale because it's that whole issue of going to IT and waiting for resources. It didn't allow them to scale. It didn't give them that flexibility, and they had stability issues in their supply chain system. And because of that, it caused them to miss a lot of the SLAs. Well, when you start missing your SLAs, you cause some problems, right? So not able to have these predictive models in place cause people to not trust or have confidence in their ability to deliver on time because you're missing all your SLAs. Well, if you can't deliver on time, that impacts your customer stat. And so the solution was this platform, the CDP Private Cloud running on OpenShift that went into the warehouse. It was delivered by people who understand Kubernetes, people who have great experience in data analytics. And the results of that are now through the pilot projects, they're able to meet all of their SLAs. They can spin up new workloads in minutes as opposed to prior to that, it was 6 to 9 months. They went from 6 to 9 months to being able to spin up new projects in minutes. So that then, of course, leads faster time to value for new applications. So as you want to innovate, as you want to experiment with new models, you can do that a lot faster, a lot quicker. And so the other thing it provides, because of the Cloudera capabilities with data, they can move away from batch processing, where you're doing your analytics in the background in batch, to real-time analytics. So they can do it based on streaming data. So this is just one example of one customer that we've worked with to get this deployed and implemented and prove that this solution has value to customers. This is only one that I'm mentioning, but there are several others that we've done similar work with. So that's really all I had to share with you in this presentation. I really appreciate your time to hear us out about this solution that we provided. And now I'd like to just sort of open it up and leave time for questions.
Okay, thanks, John, and thank you everyone who joined us today. If you have questions, any questions, here is our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us and we will be happy to help you. Enjoy your day.